Floyd Hemphill. I work for a small consultancy here in town called Victory CTO. I live in Colorado now. LastCon was generous enough to invite me out, so Victory was generous enough to fly me out. Woot. All right, here are the assumptions and objectives for the talk. You have experience with a Kanban board, all right? You're going to leave understanding there's far more to a Kanban board than it's just a sideways to-do list. That's the goal here. You're going to get more done. You want to get more done, but you don't want to work longer hours to do it. You want to get more security in. You'll be able to see problems in your team based on a glance at this board that I'm going to build with you here. You're going to be able to see problems in your team based on how the work moves across that board, so statically looking at it and when you're talking about it and the work is moving. You'll be able to improve the throughput of work in your team, and you'll be able to address problems uncovered tactically, strategically, and systemically that you're detecting with the Kanban board. All right, have I got your interest? And why are you all sitting in the back, for crying out loud? Bunch of introverts. Oh, that'd be me too. Okay, you're cool. All right, no, really, this is really as simple as learning some new behaviors and unlearning others. Now think about what I just said. Simple as learning new behaviors. There's nothing simple about learning new behaviors. All right, the teams I run, my engineers ask me for more meetings. Let that sink in. Has anyone in this room ever said to their manager, hey, can we have another meeting? Or, hey, can we have a longer meeting? All right, that's because meetings often suck. So let's make them meaningful. All right, so we're going to talk about a Kanban board. We're going to talk about the rituals, the meetings around the Kanban board. And in the end, we're going to walk away with a continuous improvement loop. All right, some ground rules. Interrupt me and ask questions. If I need to, I will put you off. Please let me do that. But hold me to account. If I put you off, I'm not saying I don't have an answer to that, although I will say that if I don't. Get after me afterwards. Come and see me tomorrow. Get an answer to your question. I owe you that. You're giving me an hour of your time and your trust that I'm not going to waste it. The least I can do is give you an answer to your question. This talk is about your work in your security team. It is not about work across multiple teams. I can do a talk like that if you want. Tell the organizers I'll come back next year. We can touch on multiple teams, projects, and Kanban, but again, I'm going to deflect in most cases. This is me. I lived in Austin for 18 years. I built the DevOps community along with Ernest Muller and James Wickett and those folks. So I founded Austin DevOps, grew it to about 3,000 people. I was the guy who ran the volunteers for the DevOps Days Austin conference, blah, blah, blah. And when I moved to Grand Junction, Colorado, of course, what did I do? I started a meetup. So we're about 200 people. We meet once a month. We get about 20 people showing up already. And I've realized the dream. I actually got the college to host us. So we have college students coming to listen to professionals talk about how they do their jobs. Our hope is that college students will be a little more prepared to step into the workforce because they're being exposed to us early. They'll also learn how to swear a lot better than they would if they only went to college. I'm semi-retired these days on purpose because I like to ski. All right, so let's do some first principles here. Let's set some ground rules. I want you to repeat after me. All problems are people problems. There is no such thing as a security problem. There is a people behind that, somewhere. That's your problem to solve. Tools don't solve problems ever. Humans, people, applying tools in clever ways, that's what solves problems. Heroes or zeros. If you have to be a hero, there is something very wrong and that needs to be addressed. You cannot keep heroism up indefinitely, which means you cannot get joy from your actual life. That's a problem. A security team is the smallest unit of work, not the individuals on that team. Teams are greater than the sum of their individual parts. If I have 5 people on a team, we should be able to do the work of 7 individuals minimum. We deserve a predictable and joyful life outside of work. When's the last time somebody said that to you? Anyone? Bueller? When is the last time somebody said you deserve a joyful life outside of work? Now keep in mind, I'm not a security guy, I'm an ops person. But I know the hell out of what incident response looks like. And I have been up for 3 and 5 days straight with somebody yelling at me that we're losing $1 million a minute. I understand those pressures, okay? I have a bit of empathy. And this is me, again, rubbing some DevOps all over your security. Do you feel dirty? Can you feel that DevOps coming? All right. So Kanban is not tech or tool. It's a model for managing work. These concepts are going to be repeated throughout the talk. Make work visible. Make work visible. WIP is work in progress. You need a WIP limit. We're going to talk about flow in the team because what I really am is a granola eating hippie, and these are actually Birkenstocks. Don't look. And high fidelity communication. These are the hallmarks of a high performing team. So, some examples. Jira is not a tool. Jira is a tool that has a Kanban capability that is best of breed. Avaza, which is what we use at Victory, is a time tracking tool for contractors that has a Kanban component that's only partially developed, but incredibly useful for us. Podio is, maybe was, a trashy work tracking documentation software. It's like Jira plus Confluence minus 90%. It's terrible. But we still managed to use Podio, excuse me, it's like polio. Yeah, it actually felt like that too. Kanban capability to save a startup that had already had it in place. Rather than trying to rip out their tools, they were about to run out of money. We just leaned into what those Kanban capabilities were, and we were able to bring them back out of, we're going out of business, and eventually they were able to sell themselves, ready? You're sitting down, for $352 million to Carnival Cruises. Let that sink in. Now, there was a whole lot more to that than Kanban, but Kanban's where we started. Kanban was actually invented in the 40s in Japan. It's part of the legendary Toyota production system. And all it is really is applied systems thinking. And if you ever wondered what DevOps is, it's not automation, it's applied systems thinking. Right? You don't need some DevOps, you don't need DevSecOps, you don't need your own word. All you need is systems thinking. All right? So we're going to do it. And Kanban is forever because I'm a zealot. All right, a primer. Even a simple board provides many insights. Insights lead to throughput improvements. So let's make an assumption that we're talking about an AppSec team of 3 AppSec engineers, 2 cloud security people, and 1 technically capable but rusty leader, so a total of 6. So Kanban in its simplest form. Are there any obvious things that anyone in the audience can infer from this board, even if you're not familiar with Kanban? Anything that jumps out at you as a potential problem or a potential good thing? Okay, yeah, there's a big red, we're overdue, because that was October 17th. Okay, so SAST is overdue. What else? How do you know? Okay, so that could be because we're disappearing the dumb things, because hopefully there's millions of them, and we're only maybe keeping them for a week. But that's a really good observation. We would need to know more about the board. Excellent. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Oh my God. Really? Oh, is it from November or is it due in November? It's a it's a fantastic question. It's not evident, right? So what we need is a little documentation about what things mean on the Kanban board as well. Remember that make work visible, write things down? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, so Shannon, that's her, has a WIP of 3. You can see that she has these 2 things that are in progress, and you can see that she's also waiting on a review here. She's responsible for 3 things going on right now. How many Shannon is there? 1. Y'all ever heard the myth that women are better at multitasking than men? That is bullshit. Women are simply better at not complaining about it. All right? Let that sink in. We all suck at multitasking. If you think you're good at multitasking, you are lying to yourself. You should stop and love yourself instead. The SAST exercise is late, as Matt said. Thank you, Matt. Well, why? Well, we don't know what the definition of done is. Ooh, there's some information that we need. We don't know if that means the SAST was conducted. We don't know if it means it was written up. We don't know if it's been through risk assessment. We don't even know if done means all the things have been remediated, which would be ludicrous, right? Because are we really going to go after the lows? How can Shannon get the SAST exercise done when she's currently working on a bug bounty effort and shepherding a Python upgrade? She has too many things going on. Again, multitasking is a lie. It turns out the SAST task is waiting on several teams to report in. It's not actively being worked. Okay, so we have some problems. Our board doesn't represent the state of the work accurately. Our board is not an effective model of how work flows through our team. our task is not well authored and broken down. Maybe we should improve expectations for written well, or what it means for a task to be fully planned. So that task moves backwards on the board. So we were able to infer some things from the static board. Now we can infer something from the board in motion. Anytime on a Kanban board, a task moves backwards from right to left. Did I do that right? Yeah. Sorry, I don't know my right from my left. That signals a problem. There's another signal from the Kanban board. All right. The SAS task is too big. It encompasses a portfolio of 13 Tier 1 applications. Okay, so what should we do about that? How do we make the work more visible? We'll get to that in a minute, right? But what we've detected is this thing had to move backwards. We go through some sort of retrospective about why that moved backwards, and we learned that this was way too big. It wasn't manageable as one single task. So we'll get to that in a little bit. And then the other thing is, those two ones with the red bar there, those are critical tasks. Those are interrupts that came in. One of those is a security alert. Somebody used the root login in AWS. And the other one is there's a new CVE. It's 2025 puppies are dying. And nobody wants puppies dying, right? So we want to get on that right away. And let's face it. I'm really curious to see if anyone's paying attention. When something comes in as a security incident, for how many of you is it all hands on deck? Yeah. The pressure goes up and up and up, right? It's intense. Okay. So those things probably didn't get moved into the in progress column because the people who caught them are busy working them. But we don't know that. We can't see that 40% of our capacity of our entire team is now dedicated to things that are interrupting us. Now, let me drill in on the word interrupt for just a minute. When you take an interrupt, what are you not doing? Can I change the word previous to planned? You're not doing your planned work. And if you're not doing your planned work, the work you promised to the business, to somebody with a big title and a loud voice, that would be me, that's bad for you. That's bad for the business. We planned that work for a reason. We prioritize it as the most important thing that you'd be doing. You're doing it now, and it's not getting done because interrupts. We see that all of us are actually working on something. A moment ago, it looked like two people were assing off. I'm not doing anything, you know. Now on the Kanban board, we see, no, we're all fully activated, and maybe even in Shannon's case, overactivated. We also know that that when someone is done, they should either review the Python task, they should help get the SAS review undone, or they should start an external pen test. Right? So we can tell that from the board because when any one of these people clears this, this is the next task on the top of the to-do column. The Kanban board is communicating to us. We don't need to have a conversation in Slack where we've, here's the word again, interrupted each other to see what we should do next. Just the fact that we're keeping up with the Kanban board means that we know what to do next. Simple as that. All right. If you've never heard of it, there's a thing called Conway's Law that roughly says the way we communicate informs the architecture of the systems we build. All right. Turns out Conway was talking about software systems, the things that we work on. I argue that we also build at work our system of communications, the human system. There's a second system always, as well as the software. And if our comms suck, our system of work sucks too. Simple as that. So the conclusion is this. This is the good news. We control our own destiny. Observation. We think we are victims of the system, and we often behave that way when actually we control the system, and we can exert that control by improving the way that we communicate. Let that sink in. You have control. You can make it better. All right. Talk about the work regularly and ritually. It's all about the work. I'll explain what I mean, why I'm being repetitive here. You ever been in that stand-up where it's like, hey, dude, what'd you do yesterday? What are you doing today? Got any blockers? How do you feel, baby? What a load of crap. We don't go to work to talk about our feelings. We go to work to be awesome. We want to get shit done. GSD. So stop going person by person and instead go task by task. And if any of you know Jeff Adams, who used to attend this conference like religiously for years and years and years, this was his idea, not my idea. In fact, he had to argue with me through 3 of his one-on-ones to get me to try it with the team. And then I had to apologize to him that it took him 3 one-on-ones instead of 1 one-on-one because it was an amazing change for us. Okay, so we're going to stop going person by person. What does that look like? Well, hey, y'all, let's run a stand-up, shall we? And in real life, this stand-up would take about 5 minutes. Not 30 minutes, because I got to tell you what I did yesterday. Who cares? I got to tell you what I'm doing today. I might care. And I got to tell you what's blocking me. I absolutely care. All right? See how that third thing was really the only one we need to talk about? All right. The team lead opens and says, hey, this Python task here. Shannon, what's needed for review? What's needed for this review to be done? Shannon says, I need someone to take a look. I moved this at the end of the day yesterday, and I just haven't had anybody check yet. So lead looks at the board. Hey, bud, will you review this for Shannon? Note the use of the humans to get other humans help. I don't just throw it out to the group. I specifically look at the board, and I'm judging really quick who's super busy, what's super important, and it looks to me like Bud's the least busy on the least important thing. I ask him to take the interrupt to get that thing done. So it is no longer in the board. Shannon doesn't have to worry about it. Shannon doesn't have to take an interrupt if there's feedback, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm helping the flow of the team. I'm reducing the work in process, the WIP. Work in process, mathematically, theory of constraints, Eliyahu Goldratt, is the silent killer. The higher your work in process, the lower your productivity. The crappier your lead times. That's math. You can't fight the maths. Okay, Bud says, yep, I got you, because our team is all about helping each other because we want to do the work of 7, not the work of 5. And it's actually pretty easy once we get going. The lead notes on the ticket in the comment, writes it down. Bud will review. Why? Because tomorrow, if Bud didn't get to it for some reason, I can ask, hey, Bud, you were going to review this. What happened? Oh, I got drawn into the incident. Great. Can you get to this today? We're not looking to blame anybody. We're just looking for simple accountability. And again, we all want to be awesome. We did not show up at work wanting to suck. All right, so we give people the opportunity to shine every day in every stand-up. All right, let's continue. We go to the in progress column next. We start at the top. We open Shannon's task. Hey, Shannon, what do you need to get this bug bounty report so it can be reviewed? Note the use again of that specific language. We're using our words in progress and in review because that's what describes the flow of the team. Shannon says, this report is poor and I can't reproduce what I think they are saying. And then you can hear some general grumbling on the Zoom call, effing bug bounty, time wasting. Okay. Seems like there's a problem there. And we just detected that with this simple ritual of a stand-up that goes along the work. The lead. Hey, it's SQL I, so I don't want to just close it as won't do a status. Shannon says, you could escalate it back to the field and see if we can get more info. The lead says, yeah, write up what you need in the ticket, comment, and let me know. Again, we put what's needed on the ticket so that if nothing got done tomorrow, we can reaffirm that that's what we need to do and that it's going to get done. We're holding each other accountable, even the lead. The lead notes what Shannon will do and what he will do once he hears from her. Move this to blocked since we have an external dependency on the ticket. And then Caleb speaks up and says, hey man, that's moving backwards. I'm going to put an item on the team meeting, which I'll talk about as the other ritual, about the bug bounty. We burn a lot of time on these reports that ultimately we can do nothing with. Okay, so now Caleb's identified a place where we are wasting time that we're not able to get our planned work done. All right, great. Folks nod, and they know that this is going to get discussed because, and when I explain that team ritual meeting, you'll see where we are now empowered to act on these things. All right, we walk through the rest of the cards. Progress asking each time. In progress asking each time, what does this need to get to reviewed? Each person can simply say, I don't need anything, I just got started working on it, or they can ask a question, or they can even ask for help. The work gets what it needs to get done. The person gets what they need to be successful at work. And let's face it, that's what we want. We want to be successful at work. All right, we move to the blocked column. The lead opens that SAS card and says, what do we need to get this unstuck and in progress? Shannon says, we're still waiting on the other teams to report in. Okay. The lead says, we're a week past due and I'm getting pressure from compliance. Shannon says, I escalated this to you last week. And the lead says, oh yeah. Isaac speaks up, hey boss, is it time for you to escalate? The lead says, man, I hate doing that, everyone's busy, but you're right. Again, the team is able to hold the lead accountable to something that only the lead really should be doing in terms of escalating this. The lead makes a note in the comments that he will escalate to the VP. And again, there's already a specific list of teams not reporting from the comments. That conversation is already well informed. Nobody needs to take an interrupt to figure out who needs to get talked to. It's already right there. We go to the to-do column. The lead asks a general question about the tickets rather than a specific question. We only have 2 tasks ready to start. Is it time to groom? Isaac says, yeah, but it's not urgent. All of our stuff is big, and Caleb and I are firefighting hard, and we'll pick them up in order as we come free. The lead says, great, we'll groom the backlog Monday. Y'all take 15 minutes sometime to scan it and ensure the priority looks right so that we can get any important stuff fully fleshed out. So if someone comes free, again, they already know what to do. They don't wait on a response from the busy lead. We are now fully empowered to do our work. We don't need to have somebody who is the manager tell us what to do. They're not a babysitter. We want them fighting for us. We don't want them managing us. Can you guys hear all the time we've created in the team to do more work? I hope that you can. So I asserted that 5 people could do the work of 7 individuals. This is how it happens. It may sound a bit asshole-ish, but actually it isn't. Again, people come to work to be awesome, not to share what they did yesterday. Yesterday's gone. Talking about the work means that people focus on getting what they need to get that work done. Simple change, it's a huge benefit to the team. I was already running a world-class team at Contrast Security. We were the cloud engineering team. I was already running a world-class team when we made this change. Like literally, when I told the VP I need 3 new headcount, he's sitting down, he gave me 5. His name is Steve Feldman, and you can check with him if you think I'm BSing you. Think about that. I asked for 3 new heads, each at about $150,000 a year. He gave me 5. Why? It ain't because I'm pretty. When we made this change, we went from world-class to kicking ass. People who are part of high-performing teams want to perform higher. And we are more likely to stay at that company, which means we don't have to spend $50,000 to go and find a new person to replace one of those world-class operators. In other words, this is a virtuous cycle. Everyone's benefiting. Now, I'm sitting here at a security conference, and nobody believes there's such a thing as a virtuous cycle, right? Because in operations, well, you know that whole give a man a fish thing? In operations, we say, give a man fire and he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Set a man on fire and he'll be warm. I'm sorry. Give a man fire and he'll be warm for the night. Set a man on fire and he'll be warm for the rest of his life. Okay? We live in the same world you do. Our humor is the same. So again, I'm coming from a place where I have a general understanding of what your world is like day to day. Remember that interrupts are anti-work? We established that earlier. We need to make every effort to minimize those. But we need to have the space in our team to actually make that effort. This effort I'm talking about is work. So going back to those first principles, how do we make that work visible? Y'all have heard of the 7 men and the elephant? If you haven't, I'd invite you to look it up. It's an interesting thing. But basically, you got 7 blind folks. They're each touching the elephant, and in each case, they think it's something different. And you can see why. Right? This is a frame of reference. This is empathy. And the elephant in the room, well, we have 2 kinds of work on the board right now. We have our planned work and our unplanned work. It would be really nice if we could separate that because it's probably going to flow differently. And indeed, to the second talk in this room, we probably want to report on it in terms of metrics differently. We need to. Okay. So let's see if we can do that. These are called swim lanes. It is a misnomer. Many people think that the swim lanes are the actual columns. That's status. Swim lanes cut across. Those are the rows. Swim lanes are grouping work in ways that matter to your team. So for example, here we have our critical work, and then I left this as no label because we can name it whatever we want. I would call this daily work. And then for each project that we're running or that we're part of, we would probably want to track the tickets of that project on the board as well. But again, I'm leaving projects out of this. I am prepared to talk about it, just not in this talk. If you want to ask, please see me later. So we've elevated the interrupts by making them even more visible in that top lane, giving them their own swim lane. And over time, but interrupts kill security and ops teams. Over time, we can become completely reactive, and we can't prevent systemic failure. This becomes a downward spiral. Everyone's heard that toilet flushing when it's just incident after incident after incident. You know, like, remember Log4j? Wasn't that fun? That was one of those, like, 3-day benders. I still have a shirt somewhere that's like Log4j Weekend Warrior, because contrast, we had to fix our shit, and then we had to help all of our customers fix theirs too. All right, the first step, make the critical work more visible. 40% of our capacity is currently not moving the plans forward. Remember that any interrupt is toil. I love that word, toil. So we need to take step 2, the thing that we're probably not doing. We need to reduce interrupts ruthlessly. All right, so how are we going to do that? Look at that, there's the third swim lane now. And there's this new thing that popped up there. Force a root sign-in checkout process. Okay, well, we know that we got this AWS alert that said, hey, somebody tried to log in with a root account, which is a big, big no-no. Don't do that ever, all right? So we got an alert about it. We get these all the damn time. Why? Because somebody thinks it's a good idea. They're special. Okay, so we need to do something so that nobody's special anymore when it comes to how they sign into AWS. If we do that, we don't have to waste time reacting to these alerts. All right, so how did that appear, though? That's the real question. Every single one of you sitting here, I'm looking at you. Yeah, you looked up. Every single one of you knows how to do your job, and you're damn good at it. The fact that you're sitting here at LastCon with the idea that you want to get better at what you do speaks to a pride in craftsmanship that says, I want to hire you if I have an opening. That's what it says. All right, so if you already know what to do, why isn't it getting done? Because actually you're lazy, right? You work from home, and really what you're doing is you're watching cat videos on your other monitor and all that stuff, because that's, right, everyone, yeah, raise your hand, that's everybody, right? Bullshit. You're not lazy. What you don't have is the space to do a thing. So how do we carve that out? What does that look like? And how does the Kanban board help us? This is a people problem. So let's get the hard stuff out in the open. Again, all problems are people problems. All people problems are hard. We're talking about behavior changes. And if I ask this young woman here to change her behavior, it's going to take her a minimum of 30 days to effectively do so. Not because she doesn't want to, but because that's what it takes. We need that empathy. We need to understand that we don't flip a bit in a human. We have to constantly remind them. We have to be patient. We have to remind them what we're doing and why we're doing it. And it becomes all the more so because if we're introverted, we generally don't want that conflict of reminding somebody they didn't give us what we wanted, right? But if we're not willing to do that, we're effectively saying we're not as interested in succeeding as maybe we think we are sitting here. What does the job require? So some more ideas and security calories. All right. I'd be willing to bet you that if I just stopped the talk now and we just made a list on a whiteboard of all the great ideas that you have that are absolutely meaningful to your organization, where we could go to the CTO and get budget for it, we would have more ideas on that whiteboard in the next, what would that be, 30 minutes or so, than we could possibly do in the rest of our careers. Let that sink in. I am certain of that. I would take that bet. What are we going to do with them? Well, don't we want the product team to prioritize the work coming to us? Hey, product team, what's important? And don't we get really agitated when they say, it's all important, you got to do all 5 of these things at one time or puppies are going to die? How many puppies? Well, I don't know. All right, so seriously though, right? We expect the product team to prioritize the work coming to us from the product organization around the applications that we're supporting. And yet, we often aren't willing to prioritize our own work because, hey, guess what? We think everything's important too. All right, well, empathy. If we expect the product team to prioritize the work coming to us, then we should show them what that looks like by prioritizing our own damn work. Fair enough? Okay, maybe not. This forces a prioritization function for our good ideas, this Kanban board. So that upper right-hand corner, that new task, what if there were 17 of those? It's just the top one we're going to work on next. The other ones are going to wait because somewhere in our system we agreed that that was the most important one. In the end, you have to make the tough choice. And by you, I don't mean you, the individual. What I actually mean is you, the team. Remember, the team is more than the sum of its parts. No individual knows enough to make that decision on their own, not even the lead. The team, the wisdom of the crowd, should make the decision. Turns out we need a ritual for that, right? If we're going to get together. But I still don't have that answer. So, here we go. Some assumptions. The team knows what it should do, right? You all are awesome. You know what to do. The team also knows what's most important. And the team works from a list of tickets, a backlog, that it prioritizes. These are the assumptions. Simple enough? Are these true for most people? So what's not true? Is it that you don't know what to do or that you don't work from a backlog?
What's important varies by person. What's important might vary by person or by department.
Right, okay, so what's important might vary by person or by department. That's true, okay? Just because there are 6 people on a team that are all awesome doesn't mean they're going to agree. Is it okay to disagree? Yeah. You want to know the words? It is fine to disagree and then commit. If 4 of the 6 people on the team say this is the most important thing, the other 2 people have to say, I disagree, I think this is the thing that we should be doing, but I'm committed to making sure that that next thing gets done. I'll give you an example of me totally screwing up. I had a guy named Manny come to me and say, hey Boyd, we need to IDP all of our AWS access. I'm like, that's a load of crap. Everyone can log in AWS. It's just a pull request to add somebody. We know what groups to add them to. It takes 5 minutes. He's like, Boyd, we will save 25 hours a month if we do this. Me, bullshit. Okay. I did not hear Manny. Shame on me. Turns out Manny was wrong. It was over 35 hours a month that we were saving. Think about that, almost a full-time person's week that we were saving when we made that change. I probably should have listened, right? But why didn't I? Well, that got me thinking. Manny came to me, and he wanted me, the manager, to make that decision. And I'm thinking about all the pressures that I have, and none of them are that except for Manny. Later, about 2 months later, we put this team meeting in place, and it was discussed, and everyone was like, oh God, yeah, if I never have to make another PR for AWS access, I'll take a pay cut. And I was like, whoa, wow, okay. All right, then I guess that's what we're doing. All right, so I'm pretty good at what I do. I didn't know that that was really that big a deal, but the group telling me that it was meant that I could give them my support. And quite honestly, the group telling me that's what it was, they didn't need my support. What they had was their own agency at that point. So what are the conclusions? We need to write a place to write down our good ideas. We need a backlog where the work gets pulled from. We need to prioritize that work in the backlog. Turns out we need a way to get these things into the backlog. Let's do it. A digression. Self-inflicted interrupts. You have a chat client. Somebody says, hey everyone, we should address this thing because I have a good idea. Does that ever happen? Someone says, yeah, we could do solutioning. And you get this wall of text. And a few people read it. And then others jump in and they're like, yeah, but you didn't cover this corner case, so got to do wall of text. How many hours collectively across a team of 6 just got consumed with no planned work getting done? That's a self-inflicted interrupt. Let that sink in. Now, am I saying you guys shouldn't talk about good ideas? No. What I'm saying is we need to have a place where those good ideas go, knowing that not only will they get talked about, that's not good enough, because that's just a waste of time. They also get actioned on. We need that. We need talked about, and we need actioned on. What does that look like? Okay, well, these ideas are often of huge value, And here's the other thing. If we don't discuss them, or if they keep getting talked about and nothing gets done, what goes on with morale? Yeah. Okay. So in chat, here's another one. Hey, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. That's a mistake on my part. Here it is. So one step farther down, in a direct message between team members, those hides the work. There are also interrupts. If I DM Brian, he and I are not doing planned work. Okay. Now, if we want to make lunch plans, that's totally cool. But if we're talking about a good idea we have, again, it's just that it's happening where people can't see it. It's still an interrupt. And the rest of the team can't participate in making that thing better. We need to eliminate direct messages. Money that happens on DM is largely unactionable, but still feels to the people in the DM like it's being discussed, which means morale goes down. DMs are toxic when you're talking about work. Again, when you're talking about personal stuff, hey, check out this picture of my cat, that's a different thing. All comms about work should be in the team channel. It's the job of the lead to monitor that behavior and keep hitting those expectations. You got it? Okay. So back to digression number 1. In stand-up, we want to be effective. Note that this comes first. Short, less than 15 minute, ideally 5 minutes or less, and effective meeting. See the theme here? In chat, we want to pull out valuable aha statements. In both cases, the problem to solve is two-dimensional. How do we get it into the backlog? How do we minimize the interrupts in doing so? All right, so how do we feed the Kanban board is what this boils down to. The weekly team meeting, 30 minutes. This happens once a week. This is going to sound, if you've done Scrum before, like a sprint retrospective, but it's not. It's way broader than that. Start a document. Doesn't matter where it is. Confluence, Carrier Pigeon, Google Docs. Don't use SharePoint. SharePoint just sucks. It makes me sad. But again, you see the theme, write it down. Tool doesn't matter. All right. Crowdsource the agenda. If something comes up in stand-up and the lead says, hey, can you add that to next week's team agenda? Yeah. Rabbit holes avoided because we know it's going to get discussed, et cetera, et cetera. If it comes up in chat, anyone can say, hey, man, that's a team meeting. So that first wall of text, hey, that looks like a team meeting topic. Yeah, we can stop right here. We can all get back to our planned work because we want to go home feeling like we accomplished something. But we know it's going to get talked about at the next team meeting, which is always coming up within the next week. Again, rabbit hole avoided, interrupt avoided, see the theme. All right, so we've stopped the interrupt and we've parked it in a place. We solved one dimension of the problem. Now we need to make it actionable. The first 5 minutes of the team meeting, this is, by the way, if you're familiar with Lean Coffee, I'm just going to explain Lean Coffee, so zone out for a moment. Well, that was very not security conference of me. I left chat on. So, first 5 minutes of the team meeting is everyone, leads, and even guests included, placing 3 votes on across topics. If something is super important, put all 3 of your votes on the same topic. Stuff the ballot box. The highest number of votes goes first. Ties are broken by the lead. The lead sets a 5-minute timer, and the person who put the topic on the agenda opens the discussion. Now, here's the thing. At 5 minutes, the lead is going to ruthlessly interrupt the discussion and say, do we need to continue talking about this? And people will vote, thumbs up. Are you neutral? People will vote, thumbs sideways. Do we need to move on to the next topic? People will vote, thumbs down. Majority rules. We talk about the thing the team thought was most important. We talk about it for as long as it needs to be talked about. Now, what's the role of the lead in all of this? The facilitator. The lead's role is to facilitate decisions. This thing we're talking about, what action are we going to take? Hey, Boyd, I need you to go and get the bug bounty program killed because it's a total time sink. Okay, that could be a decision that we make, and that becomes, you guessed it, a ticket in the backlog that shows up on the Kanban board. These actions are recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Let me be really clear here. Nobody ever does work from the minutes. A task in the minutes is done. It's checked off, however you want to do that, when the ticket is, I need to edit that, when the ticket is written. Priority is determined in backlog grooming. So that same process of all the other work that we're doing, this work just goes right in there and is prioritized against that. Now we have a fair system. Now we can say this thing that we came up with is more important than the product team. And if we don't have the spare calories to do it, we can say to the lead, we need you to make room for this. So when Manny Sanker came to me and said, we need to use IDP to log into AWS, and I said, no, I was thinking about all the other things. When the team said we need to do this, I went to the product team and said, that project is going to be 1 week late because we need to do this other thing so that your other projects will be better off. Product team moaned a little bit, said okay, and we kept our promise. That's what a world-class team looks like. And by the way, they weren't world-class because of me. I just rode them. They were amazing. So, again, work only happens when it's in the backlog and is moving across the Kanban board. If it is not on the board, if it is not a ticket, it is not happening because we need to make the work visible. Only if it's visible does it have priority and meaning. Okay, why isn't it 60 minutes? Well, that's really simple. Topics from the team meeting that didn't get discussed are carried on to the next week. So you can imagine things backing up possibly. You can also imagine them shrinking. So a valid topic for the meeting is, hey, this meeting should be N minutes. And if that gets voted up, it gets talked about. And if the team decides they need a 60-minute meeting, remember I told you my engineers asked me for more meetings and longer meetings? This is exactly how they did it. Hey, we need a 60-minute meeting. We've got a bunch of really important things backing up we need to figure out. Okay, great. Here's a side effect if you're a team lead. You get a very solid understanding really quick of what the health of your team is and what the health of your systems are because it's discussed openly in front of you. You're just facilitating the meeting and occasionally participating. So they're talking in front of you about the very problems they're having. Think about the power of that. You go to somebody in their one-on-one and say, so what makes you sad? And you're going to get a whole lot of this and not a whole lot that's actionable. You're going to get a lot of feelings. You watch this happen and you see what the team needs. That's powerful stuff as a lead. And you can use that information to make better decisions, apply your support and influence where you need to do it, both within the team and for the team with your peers and supervisors. All right. But wait, there's more. I love that guy. Remember, this was a Kanban talk. So was this a bait and switch? I've been talking about a team meeting now for a while. So what's the consequence? The question was, how does that top swim lane get populated? Did you hear the answer? It gets populated through the team meeting. This includes creating tickets themselves, the prioritization of the tasks, answers outside scope. Is this incident retrospective? Oh, okay. Another one. We had an incident. We run a retrospective, right? We learn stuff. Some of those things we want to action on so we can prevent that kind of incident again. Guess where that goes? It goes in that swim lane. And again, in that incident minutes, retrospective minutes, nobody's doing the work there. They're just creating the tickets from what was decided there. The work is a ticket on the Kanban board. Another piece of outside scope, leads interactions with peers and upper management. They learned that something is bugging the product team. Like my team, we learned that a 3-second response time for team server was no bueno, which was news to me because I was still 6 months into the job and I didn't know. So we went and we fixed it. Excuse me. So we can see that our investment in improvement every day in stand-up. We can actually see those things moving across that top swim lane because improving daily work is more important than doing daily work. Take a deep breath. Have you guys heard of continuous improvement? That's what all the cool kids talk about. We just built a continuous improvement loop right here. We just built a continuous improvement loop right here in front of you. Now, that guy Jeff Adams I talked about who gave me the idea for the kanban-style stand-up, he came to me in his one-on-one about 3 weeks later. He's like, we don't do any continuous improvement. I'm like, bullshit. He's like, no, really, we don't. So I went into Jira. I searched for the tag that made that swim lane, and I said, we've done 17 things. 2 of them you did. These are all improvements that made us faster. And he looks at me and he goes, how did I miss that? It's really easy. We don't necessarily value the work that's important to us the way we should. I don't know why that is. I have never been able to get to the psychology of that, but I invite you to reflect on it. Okay? It was a big aha moment for Jeff when he lost that argument, and I was really happy to help him lose it because he became better at championing continuous improvement. All right, so I said it's a continuous improvement loop. There it is. You've got all of these things, and I really want to reinforce something that Jeff Williams said this morning in the keynote. Product operations. I did contrast to shout because he brought this up. I added that to my slide today. All right? We get telemetry from product operations, and we should take those and we should feed our continuous improvement loop. Team chat, like I was talking about, those interrupts, those all go on the team agenda. We collect those. Those go to the team meeting, we discuss and we decide. We may decide not to take an option, so a ticket doesn't get created. It goes to the backlog, we prioritize them, and then it gets onto the Kanban board. We execute and we manage against the rest of the work. We manage our WIP so that the continuous improvement stuff can get done. And by doing so, we gain more flow, which means that we get more done, which means that the business is super happy with us. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm just like, I'm just applying the theory of constraints, just like it was written about in 1982 by Eliyahu Goldratt. Cool. You get 5 people instead of 3 people. Me. Why? Them. You'll figure it out. No shit. That was the conversation with my VP. Now, he took one of them back because we got some amazing hacker from Microsoft that we really needed for our .NET agent. And I was fine with that. I still got 1 extra headcount. I mean, when does that ever happen? All right. And then that very Kanban board, remember, that's part of the feedback process, right? Sometimes in stand-up, when we're running across the Kanban board in that kanban-style stand-up, something comes up. Remember the grumbling about the bug bounty being a waste of time because we weren't getting good stuff and we had to do too much investigation? Yeah. That could be the next ticket up there in that swim lane. And that's all I have, folks. That's how you can build a continuous improvement loop. That's how you can use Kanban to get more done with the same amount of calories. So that you can go home and you can lead a joyful life, whether that's petting your cat, hugging your children, getting out to a festival with your wife or husband or partner or what have you, right? Because in the end, we work to live. We don't live to work. Kanban is kind to humans. Thank you. I didn't take any interrupts during that talk. Any questions, any challenges, right? You know, I mean, if you're sitting there thinking bullshit, bring it.
I've got one. So what do you do when the backlog is 500 items? Is that just the way it is? And if things continue to get deprioritized, then are you doing it right?
I love answering this question. What do you do when the backlog is too deep? I don't care. Because all I really care about are the top 10 things. Everything else can't be that important because we don't have the calories to do it, and we have to be okay with that. Because if we start 10 things, remember, WIP is the silent killer. If you have 10 things going on in a 5-person team, you are not getting things done. And the lead time on that thing that somebody comes up with, especially the incident, gets longer and longer and longer. Again, this is math. You can look it up. All right, it's the theory of constraints. Look for lead times based on WIP if you want to look it up. All right. If you want to read the book, it's The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt, or if you want a technical derivative work, it's The Phoenix Project by Gene Kim, which is like one of the DevOpsy books, right? It's a story, so it's super easy to read and apply the thinking, the systems thinking in the book, what you're doing. So yeah, I actually don't care. In fact, we often, like once a year, we have a fun thing where we go through the backlog and we try and prune stuff off the bottom. Oh yeah, it's funny, we thought we cared about that, you know, kind of thing. It's sort of a, one of those dark ops celebrations. Any other questions or challenges? Really, I invite you to challenge me. I would really like for you to go do this. When I gave this talk at a meetup that I run in Grand Junction, one guy from Honor Health Systems went off and he did some of these things. He came back the next month and I couldn't get him to shut up. He went on for 10 minutes about, you got to do this, oh my God. Then he came to the same damn talk at Western Slope Startup Week, got a hold of me and said, I learned more just listening to this talk again, and we're doing all blah, blah. You know, it's like, oh, come on, Chris. You know, because that guy's brilliant. Like when he contributes to the community, he makes big contributions to the community too, right? So I would really love for you guys to benefit from the wisdom that I was able to work out over the 25 years of my career, because I'm about to retire and go away.